We are talking about hundreds of bodies buried in what we call the number cemetery. So they are given numbers, but the Israeli authority is keeping their bodies to torture their families and to torture their communities, that even if we kill you, we will impede you from getting a respectable and dignified burial that will torture your family forever.
Hi, and thank you for listening to our second episode of Not a Target, a podcast by Viva Salud. Viva Salud is a Belgian NGO partnering with social movements in the Philippines, Palestine, and the DRC, and work in close cooperation with the People Health movement. We are united in the global struggle for the right to health. All over the world, health activists, workers, and organizations are being repressed. They have become the targets of intimidations, unjustified arrests, smear campaigns, and sometimes even get murdered. In this podcast, we talk to health workers and activists from different parts of the world about the challenges they face, the extraordinary energy they put into their work, and the tremendous power of activism and international solidarity. Welcome in Not a Target. In this second episode, we will talk about the repressive situation health workers and activists are living in Palestine. Last year, 6 human rights organizations in Palestine were given the label of terrorist organizations by Israel. However, Israel failed to deliver any proof of involvement in terrorist activities by these 6 NGOs. In August of this year, the Israeli army raided and sealed the office of these 6 organizations and then condemned them as illegal. So with us today, Islah Jad, the chairman of the board of director of BISAN, professor at the University of BISAN. She explains us how she became an activist.
Islah Jad, I am a professor at BISAN University and a Palestinian activist in the women's movement a long time ago. In Palestine, you become an activist from the atrocities and injustice you see every day. On the personal level, I have lost one of my brother-in-law that was in the mid-70s, and we lost many pieces of land. My father-in-law is a big owner of inherited land from his parents. We lost, out of 8 pieces of land, we lost already 5. And I witnessed the destruction of so many homes and the killing of children and women and young youth in front of me every day. It's a daily practice to see around you every day in Palestine the killing of Palestinians and the atrocities committed against you on daily basis on the checkpoints and etc. So the injustice you see around you incites you to do something about it, to end it in any way you can.
Also joining us for this conversation is Marc Botenga, a Belgian member of the left in the European Parliament and highly involved in the struggle for the Palestinian rights.
I'm Marc Botenga. I'm a member of the European Parliament, where one of the topics I follow is obviously the relations of the European Union with Palestine. And in the past I was very active as well, and I'm still a member of the board of Viva Salud.
Palestinians can't move freely in their own country. They have difficulties accessing hospitals, ambulances can't reach people in need of help, and mobile clinics are being shut down due to Israeli repression. Every Palestinian should get the care they need and deserve. But if the services of organizations working in very remote areas cease to exist, these people have absolutely no access to healthcare anymore. Islah explains us Israeli strategies deprive people from health services and silence social organizations.
Israel is doing this because the target is Area C. And as you know, West Bank land is divided into 3 categories, Area A, B, C. A, it's under the so-called total control of the Palestinian Authority. B, under joint control Palestinians and Israelis. And Area C, which it represents 60% of the land in the West Bank, is under the total control of the Israelis. So these 6 organizations and many other civil society organizations are very active in this particular area, which is far away from the eyes of journalists and cameras. So the land grab, the harassment against peasants, the uprooting of trees, the burning of, harvests, and the killing of your herds if you have some sheep to herd around you. I mean, all these atrocities are far away from the camera's eyes. So these organizations and many other civil society organizations are working in this area, especially BISAN Center and the other 6 organizations. They are recording what is taking place there. They are taking witnesses. They are taking pictures, etc. So the campaign against this so-called terrorist organization is basically to silence them and to push them away from this area, which is the main target for colonization and building settlements.
Showing solidarity and amplifying the voices of Palestinian people is important to hold Israel accountable for its crimes.
The Stand with the Six campaign drew the attention of many important organizations. Amnesty International, for example, submitted a report saying that these organizations are not terrorist organizations. They are defending Palestinian human rights. It also pushed the government to take action, and 9 European countries issued a statement saying that they didn't find any proof to support the claims that these organizations are terrorist organizations. And it also incited many other, governments and international aid organizations to continue its financial support for the organizations, because the purpose is to block, funding the activities of these organizations in this area. So continuing the financial support, continuing the solidarity with this organization, and also condemning, the excessive and irrelevant use of the claim of terrorism for civil society organizations, putting lots of efforts to defend the human rights of the Palestinians would help in failing, the accusations of this organization of being terrorist.
The BDS movement, which stands for Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, is a concrete example of what people in Europe can do to stop Israeli atrocities. This activism also gives hope to the Palestinian community. International solidarity has proven to be successful, such as the liberation of Shata Hodeh, former nurse and director of our other partner, the Health Work Committees, released from Israeli imprisonment in June 2022 after an international liberation campaign. Shata unfairly spent 11 months in detention. Still, the EU doesn't react very strongly to what is happening in Palestine.
There is a problem, I think, with the stance of the European Union and the European institutions, is that condemning Israel as such for what it is doing on human rights abuses, on colonization, occupation, is just very, very difficult and rare. Institutions don't do that very often. Israel gets away with a lot without really getting any condemnation. Like, I think it's important to first say this, because it is true that sometimes there's a condemnation or reaction, but many of the things which are daily life in Palestine, I mean, Islah mentioned some of them, there's no condemnation whatsoever. So the European Union is very quick to condemn human rights abuses elsewhere in the world, but when it's about Israel, when it's about Palestine, very rare, very, very rarely. So I think this is one point. And secondly, of course, whatever you say, and I'm not alone in saying this, I think many people know this after, 30 years of official peace process and whatever, that if you do not back it up with force, meaning the credible threat of sanctions against Israel, you will not get anywhere. Israel will not consider you. Israel refused before summer to allow entry to a delegation of the European Parliament because it was considered, the members were considered too critical. Israel will continue doing whatever it wants. The attack on Gaza, the recent attack, was not even from an Israeli perspective justified. Generally they'd say, but we got one missile so we can bomb the entire place. But in this case they just said, well, it's preventive. We feel we want to do this. which is completely an illegal attack as well. So all of these things. Recently, there was another child killed by the Israelis close to Jenin. The European Union on these things is way too silent.
2022 was the deadliest year in Palestine since 2026. Still, the repression is getting more and more intense, but the EU continues partnership with Israel.
Well, Israel, let's be clear, makes fun of the European Union and of European countries. They ridicule them. It's very, very clear, even when there is development projects, development assistance which is given by the European countries to, for example, the construction of a school in Palestine somewhere. The development project, they build a school. Israel moves in and destroys the school, saying we didn't give permission for this. And the European Union does not even ask Israel or the country. Generally, they say, okay, we regret this or we condemn this, you shouldn't be doing this, but they don't even ask the money back. So Israel indeed makes fun of the European Union and the countries, too often. And this is what I said about sanctions. If you don't back it up with anything, if it's just words, then you're not going to go anywhere. So I think this is really important to insist on sanctions and I think there's a broad support for this. It's very clear now that there's a policy of double standards when it comes to Israel. When you have this discourse on human rights, international law, as I said before. So I'm pretty positive on that. I'm pretty optimistic. But it's not going to be easy. So we need campaigns. We need to put it in and sometimes it's like the small things. I remember, for example, East Jerusalem, which Israel occupies and wants to basically cleanse of Palestinians. Even the smallest youth activities were attacked. Like people organizing debke courses, like the traditional dance. They were chased away. They were arrested for organizing this. So if you do not react very strongly, on the one hand we need it from the international, what they call the international community, but mostly here it's the European Union and the United States. This is not going to happen without pressure. It's not going to happen without pressure. Now people in Palestine are struggling every day. Like Islah said, basically if you're born there, you have to fight. This is reality. You're confronted with injustice, with colonization and so. But here in the European Union, we need to be clear that what is happening basically because the European Union is supporting it. Not just looking away, supporting it. Why am I saying supporting it? Because few people know this, but Israel and the European Union actually have an association agreement. Meaning that Israel is not just a country with whom we do trade, with whom we don't have sanctions, like there's no sanction, but we even have an association agreement with Israel, which gives Israel access to European funds for research, for example. So this means that Israel is a partner country of the European Union, right? So we should, at least, that's the very least, stop this association agreement. Say, okay, we don't go to the next meeting of this association council, because with everything that has happened, because everything I said before, the bombing of Gaza, what is happening in the West Bank in Masafayata with the 8 villages that are being threatened, the children are being blocked from going to school, the killing of this child, the bombing of Syria, the non-respect for the airspace of Lebanon and other countries in the region. All of this happened in 1 month. So then the European Union, if you're serious at all about human rights, you need to say we don't go to this association agreement anymore. And we want to suspend, because this association agreement has a human rights clause. Okay, right, use it. What's it there for? Is it decoration?
Feigned condemnation added to commercial and political agreements don't stop the violent Israeli repression. Islah points out that Palestinian freedoms and rights don't exist, starting with the right to move and the right to health care.
Last year of a mother, they asked her to stop, and she didn't hear them because she was deaf, with a very weak sight, seeing, she cannot see properly, and she was killed she was shot at in her leg and left to bleed for 4 hours till she died. And why? Because she didn't hear the orders of the soldier when they asked her to stop. and she was a mother of 6 children, So this, as I said, you can expect at any moment, at any, at any place. You cannot safeguard your life. You cannot have a free mobility. You cannot have the basic rights to education, to health care, to socialize with your family or with your friends. And besides, you cannot really secure your basic needs from your land. As I said before, in Hebron, the target now is this south part of Hebron, because they want to expand the settlements. So if you grow, for example, vines, they come through chemicals on your vines when you are about to collect them, when they become ripe, to ruin what you have. If you harvest your wheat, they wait till you finish all the work and they just put fire in your harvest. If you grow olive trees, till now more than 3 million olive trees have been cut or uprooted or burned, because they know that this is the backbone of the economy of the Palestinian household. So this is done on daily basis. This is our daily life. So what I expect is to document this, come and visit, see on the ground what is going on, and sanction Israel. Sanction Israel. This is a monster. Don't tell me afterwards, when massacres or expulsion happen to Palestinians, that we didn't see or we didn't know. What we have is so crazy, fanatic religious settlers coming from all walks of life, claiming that this is the given land by God to them. And under this banner, they give themselves the layout to do any sort of atrocities against the Palestinians, to kick them out and take their land and rebuild the Holy Temple, and revive the Jewish nation. This is, a very crazy idea, and it is not happening anywhere in the world. Can you believe, any country in the world? Imagine yourself in Brussels and you are stopping and impeding, Jews, for example, in Brussels, to reach the most holy temple for them. What you would do? Me as a Muslim Palestinian, I cannot reach the Aqsa Mosque since 1994 now. If I want to go, I have to get a permit. Tourists are allowed to go and visit, but we Palestinians cannot go. If we gather on checkpoints to pass in the holy month of Ramadan to reach the Aqsa Mosque, you have to get a permit, and you are thrown at bomb grenades. You are harassed to deter the people from going there. So all rights, whether religious or human rights or whatever, are violated. And why is that? Because Israel can, have a free land to do whatever it takes, against the Palestinian, because they know that Europeans and Western world defenders of human rights and people's rights will not say a word against Israel, because, Israel can do anything with impunity.
After arresting and killing someone, Israel keeps bodies to punish Palestinian communities forever.
We are talking about hundreds of bodies buried in what we call the number cemetery. So they are given numbers, but the Israeli authority is keeping their bodies to torture their families and to torture their communities, that even if we kill you, we will impede you from getting a respectable and dignified burial that will torture your family forever.
To help Palestinians in their struggle for freedom, political campaigns such as Not a Target, as well as media attention, remain crucial to fight against the constant impunity.
I think the campaign Not a Target, where I think Viva Salud is also working on, is really important, because Palestinians are regularly a target. All kinds of Palestinians, be it from the blind woman to the journalist. Because there's been a lot of talk, and thankfully so, about Shirin Abu Akleh, so the journalist from Al Jazeera, who was shot, killed by Israeli forces, but still with complete impunity. Mm-hmm. Complete impunity. And she was not the first journalist, not even the last journalist that Israel has killed. And there was a lot of attention because she also had US citizenship. But this shows that you are permanently a target, even if you have press written across your chest. So that is, I think, why a campaign like Not a Target, where you put things on the agenda, where you have the faces of the people, where you can see, okay, these people, they're innocent. Why are they being shot at? Why are they under threat? Why do they live their lives in fear? That is really important. So I think, and the broader we can go, the more organizations we can involve to say we're here fighting for a basic human right, the better it would be. And I'm confident, I'm optimistic that it does make a difference. Public campaigns where you put things on the agenda, where you get media pressure, really can hurt.
For citizens, both supporting and amplifying Palestinian and civil society's voices to push politicians to action is really important. That's why we support the Stand with the Six movements and the BDS movements and keep spreading news about the situation in Palestine, which isn't the only country attacked by Israel in the region.
We have to tear up this image by showing the true face of Israel, a face of a violent state, destroying wherever it goes, destroying all aspects of lives for Palestinians and the rest of the Arab world. Israel attacked Lebanon many times, attacked Syria on daily basis almost, attacked Libya, attacked Tunisia, attacked Sudan, and of course attacked Egypt. Israel is a violent state, playing a small imperial power in the region, and it is the stick, the violent stick of American imperialism in our region. And with this stick, every other Arab country should behave. They are stealing the water of the Arab countries. They are stealing the resources. There was an estimate that Israel, during its control of Sinai, north of Egypt, they stole sand, minerals, oil, fish, whatever, even, important heritage from St. Caterina Cathedral in Sinai, the worth of more than $4 billion. During the year Israel was occupying this region. And this is done, continuously. Why? Because there is no any action to stop Israel from behaving as this little imperial power in the region. So sanctioning Israel, exactly like in South Africa, it is an apartheid state, it is a colonial settler state, it's a dangerous state. It is a dangerous state. So BDS is to stop and force the Israelis to see their countries and to take an action against their own right-wing governments and driven by crazy religious radical beliefs that Israel is going to revive the temple again and build, the Jewish nation forever as it existed 2,000 years ago. Imagine every country in the world is living by these crazy dreams. It will be war everywhere. But why is that? Because it is Israel. No, we have to stop to act and to treat Israel as a normal state. Israel is not a normal state.
This podcast is now over. I'd like to warmly thank Islah Jad and Marc Botenga for their participation. Thanks a lot for listening to Not a Target. This podcast was recorded and produced by Viva Salud. All over the world, health activists, workers, organizations and movements are being repressed. Their safety impacts our health. Subscribe to our podcast channel to hear more stories of health workers and activists. In our previous episode, we highlighted the story of Cristina Palabay and Kat Berza, both well-known Philippines human rights activists. Stay tuned on our social media channels and share our work.